Hey Isabel, thanks for coming out. We're going to do a quick recap of your first lesson or initial lesson. Draw similar lines that we did to explain what was going on or what I was looking at. So a sway line, slide line, basically your spine line. We use those to judge movement or show movement. And we ultimately targeted this area of your golf swing in this first lesson. We did talk about other sections, but like really need to focus on your lower half. I call it the foundation or the basement of a golf swing. You don't have a house if you have a cruddy basement. So we need to get these things cleaned up. And other things in your golf swing. There are very few things that you do in your golf swing that are so bad that they absolutely have to change. I've got a funny feeling that if we clean up your legs, that, and I explained it, there are things that you do at the top of your swing with shoulders and forearm and shoulder and forearm that are amazing. And you do things in the golf swing with your hands that most don't. So I really do think like that'll fall in line if we can get this lower half cleaned up. Here's the down the line view of your golf swing. We saw that it looked pretty, or I made the comment that you looked pretty crunched down, or legs needed to get a little bit taller so that we could take advantage of excuse me, your height, and you being someone that plays soccer, you obviously have muscles in the legs that you aren't using. So you make decent contact, but in order to get a little more distance and a little more consistency, we just have to clean up the little things so we can get you an impact over and over and over again the same way. This is another down the line. There's a swing I caught last minute where not a lot of rotation going on. Hands actually, the leg got in the way of the hands in the downswing, so that's why you struggled with contact on that one. So we went and built you a robot swing. I wanted to show you what it's going to look like at the top, or what your golf swing is going to look like at the top versus what it looked like before. To show you that there are some similarities. There's the triangle we talked about. There's the triangle again. Ultimately, you're looking for this right forearm and your spine to match. So you can see here, you stood up a little bit. So this is where your spine was at the start of the backswing. You stood up a little bit. That gets a little taller. If you take both of those and bend them forward, you're right where you need to be. Here's your spine. In your golf swing, they're quite a bit different, right? So how do I want to explain that? I don't want to complicate it. So we won't even mention that. But there are similarities. You are going to be taller at the top of the backswing. You're going to be more coiled up. This is your first attempt at it. Not bad. After the robot. This is your first attempt at the robot, trying to get the legs to do something different, trying to add twist. We talked about 15, 30, 45. that you didn't have to get all of your turn all at once. This is where he talked about head movement and weight shift. That if we can clean up this right leg and right hip moving funky, it's going to help get the head not to move off the ball so much. So I just pointed it out to you here. You saw that you missed the ball. And the next time you shifted off quite a bit again, but then moved forward in an attempt to get the ball, but not forward enough. So then I introduced the noodle so that you could feel what I was trying to say. Exaggerated the first time, but you made good contact. I think that made you a believer. The smile tells me that you started to believe. You can see how little your head's moving. It's actually moving towards the target. More contact. Contact again. And then this is you doing it without any sort of guidelines other than the feels that you just had. So like nothing spatial so that you know where you can or cannot go. A little bit, not much. But you get back home. And do a good job with that. So now once we got the left to right, or got you a feel for getting rid of the right and right in the backswing, and then hanging out back here and not moving forward, we got that part figured out. So it's more of a twisting. I talked about a lawnmower, which you didn't necessarily know what I was talking about, but maybe if you ever get around a lawnmower, you'll look at it and do a pull start and go, oh yeah, that does make sense now.
I'll be home. We'll do that at home.
Just to get a feel for, it actually will help you. It'll be weird, but you'll be like, that's what my hip and my shoulder are supposed to feel like? It will help you. As weird as it is, it will help you. I should get a lawnmower for this place. And then, so now we have the away from target and towards the target part of this figured out, or feel figured out for you. Now I got to get you turning in the downswing more. Because at impact, you're very, very shoulders parallel to the target line. Hips are kind of opening up a little bit. This will be a struggle at first. But we got to get rid of the lateral movement before I can really get you working on your pivot and turning. So we focus the rest of the lesson on, I'm looking to see if you're starting to own posture changes, and you are. You did a really good job. Now I just got to get you turning more. So then I brought you in, and we were going to swing you. The ultimate goal being, I want to exaggerate it to the point where you turn and twist and bend and are ultimately getting past the ball rotationally before the club. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Doesn't sound right, but it ultimately wanting getting your right shoulder to impact before the club. Boom. Make sense?
Yeah.
We were closer here, but you tried to hit this ball with your hands, which keeps you stood up. Does that make sense? So that makes the club long. And this is just me explaining to you that whether you know it or not, when I'm talking to you or making changes or talking to you about changes you're making, maybe you're thinking about your body in a skeletal way, meaning that you have to make those bones move in those positions. But what I need you to feel in transition, or what's most important in transition, as far as feel, is I want you to think about the muscles around the bones, meaning what's starting to force those bones or move pressure to make those bones do things um, to bring the change we need. So it's not I got to throw my hands to get back to the ball. It's I've got to start twisting and turning, creating torque and pressure into the ball. The club's staying behind me, and then I'm going to speed up and spin out and um, get power and speed from that type of movement. So there would be a time if we were working together in future lessons, there'd be a time where we'd be doing this and I'd be hanging out at the golf club and I would ask you to pull me around the store, pull me around the facility, like with your abs and with your legs, and show me how much power you can actually work towards the ball without throwing your hands to try to hit the shot. That's the kind of force or that's the kind of torque you can put on a golf club. And that's what the long hitters do, is they do that better than most. So this is just me basically explaining, just leave the club alone and let it get to the ball on its own. And we do an okay job here. Because we do have more of your left shoulder, left side showing at impact versus this person. Make sense?
Mhm.
Now these are the drills that I strongly encourage you to do. It's called a ski drill or whatever you want to call it, like riding the rail. You want to stay and keep all of your pressure on the inside of this ski. Another way to show it or is outside of the hip, inside of the shoe. Keep that relationship in your gold. If you would look like that if we didn't correct it today, and there's no way to push power or force energy at the target. Okay, that's drill 1. And this is drill 2. Golf ball down there. Difficult to say, but you'll understand it once you actually do this. So club face pointing away from you. The goal there is to try to get through your eyes, seeing this grip basically touching the toe of your shoe or pointing down towards the toe of your right shoe. That's going to help you get tilt. This at the top. More importantly is this one. So the club face is pointing like it would if it were being swung. And you're going to try to turn that club head so that it looks like it's hitting the ball through your eyes. Make sense? But great job in there. There's our shoulder line. There's a rounding of the back because we're turned open so much. That's what we needed to look like at impact. And you can see my left shoulder is higher than my right. That's where we're going to get you. And that's where your consistency is going to come through. Consistency and distance is going to come from in the golf swing.